what is going on with the state of the real estate industry in late 2024? There's a lot of changes, a lot of ways people are navigating business. I am here with my friend Kent Redding. I've known him for over a decade, and we're going to get into that and more in just a second. All right, Kent. So we got you here finally after all this time.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I know we misfired a few times, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. No problem. Glad you can make it. And actually been wanting to do this for a long time because I have known you since I really first got into the business. And gosh, I think our first deal was probably 2010. Something like that.
At least 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We were competing one-on-one for listings.
I know. It doesn't. Well, we'll tell that story too. Before we get into that, though,
Yep.
I want to get. We got a whole bunch of stuff to cover here,
Sure.
And I want to go over what your history in the business and when did you get in it? How did you start your own team? All that stuff.
Yeah, sure. This is a second career for me. I was but always been a kind of a serial entrepreneur. So I had mall retail businesses for about 20 years and grew a brand, and I did a lot of online sales and had a tremendous success at that. And then I retired from that.
Wait. I want to hear this a little bit more. When you said retail mall businesses,
yes.
What were you selling?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it quick. I started in College Station when I was in college. I went to A&M within the college bookstore business and came over here and helped plant Bevo's bookstore, which is on the drag, Bevo's with the steer horn up front, and the law school bookstore. So I really cut my teeth in retail while I was still in college at College Station. Like literally worked in the college bookstore business and, T-shirts and supplies and things like that. Way before it was cool.
Yeah.
Came over here.
Was it ever cool?
At A&M it was.
Okay.
So I came over here and with some partners and opened Bevo's bookstore on the drag. And ran that for a while. That was an incredible experience. And then offshoot of that, I started 2 retail chains. One was called Campus Lifestyles. They were mall-based, beachwear, UT, A&M items. And that was before there was Academy. That was before Walmart. That was before everybody, not before Walmart, but before they were carrying collegiate stuff everywhere. You could only get it on campus, and that was it.
Okay.
So that was our big push. And then I started Guitars and Cadillacs, which was a Texas-themed store. We had 20 locations throughout Texas, all mall-based. Galleria in Houston, Galleria in Dallas, River Center, San Antonio. They were kind of upscale, high-end Texas stuff. We carried cowhide purses. We carried souvenirs, things like that, and really ran that for about 15 to 20 years. And then mall-based retail was difficult, and, we were self-funded, mom and pop, and ended up with about 40 stores and 400 employees, and just decided to wind it down. So it took me 2 or 3 years, sold bits and pieces of it, decided to get out of the mall business. It took some time off, and did some soul searching, asked some friends, some CEOs and different people I knew, pastors, and I'm going to start over. What would you do?
Yeah.
And it just came up several times. People said, you ever think about being a realtor?
Yeah.
I was like, huh.
What year was that?
2002, 2003, somewhere around there. Yeah.
That's crazy. I started in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how quickly did you get to where you're building up your team?
Well, I didn't do the team thing probably for about 7, 8, 9 years. I really, to be honest with you, it's interesting. Like from my background of having a bunch of employees and a huge payroll and this big company, man, I was looking forward to being the shop owner.
Yeah.
One guy, just me doing real estate. I didn't want staff. I didn't want an assistant. I didn't want any agents at all, honestly. And but it just, by osmosis, it just kept happening,
Yeah.
And so I started just as an individual agent.
So, and I remember the first deal that I did with you. You were, I did a lot of investment property when I first started out, and you were doing foreclosures, right?
Yes, a ton.
Yeah. How'd you get into that?
Well, Berkshire Hathaway, back then it was Prudential as a brokerage. I've been with the same brokerage since day one. I've never changed brokerages. And they had, contracts with, Citibank and Wells Fargo and, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and there was just a ton of foreclosures. And to be honest with you, I was a starving agent. I'm going to do whatever it takes. And so I worked, they had a relocation department that had that business. Mm-hmm. So I raised my hand and said, sure, I'll walk into the woods into a vacant, mobile home on 3 acres, and because nobody else would do it. And so that's how I cut my teeth.
I did it. I didn't have a problem with it. I loved it.
I loved it. I thought it was super fun.
Yeah.
You never knew what you were walking into.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, eventually you started getting into, organically, I think this happened to a lot of people, where you have, you're hiring an assistant, right? Or maybe like a buyer's agent, and then it's kind of all from that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I started with just a buyer's agent, and then you kind of needed an assistant to help me out. They did both things, and it just kept growing. And I honestly I feel like part of my life is I'm just addicted to success. I tried not to grow, but I couldn't help it. And so it grew, and our team got pretty large for a while. And honestly, it was a little, I'm still a producing, practitioner. And so I'm still a grinder out there, unlike yourself, who can separate or did separate from that. And I decided I really couldn't do it very well doing both. So we narrowed our team down, kind of small.
Yeah.
And actually we've started growing again now. So we have 10 agents now, but we were down around 3 or 4 for a while.
Yeah, I have found when I was growing my brokerage and team, it was essentially you always start off with a team, right? Yeah. Even if it's a brokerage. But when you get past 8 or 10 agents, that's when you got to make a decision like, all right, do I want, because you're a producing agent, right?
Yeah.
And that's like you're running your own business as a producing agent, and you're managing a bunch of agents. It just gets hard, right?
And they have an expectation of being led and trained. And I think the first time I did it, I didn't do it as well because I didn't really have a plan. This time around, it's happening completely by osmosis, but I enjoy the coaching up of people. I'm not looking to build a big team. I'm not looking to be, Ryan Rodenbeck. Who is really, right?
No one.
Nobody wants that job. But now I really appreciate the coaching and the help that this industry needs. New agents, it's hard to get started.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that a lot. And I've gotten over, at peace with, I don't know if you had this, but when I had my team, I had 2 or 3 people come through, some that that killed it and then left and went out on their own and killed it out there. And, at first you're kind of like, oh man, I kind of invested in those guys.
Yeah.
I got over that, got at peace with that. Now I actually enjoy bringing people on the team and launching them, equipping them and launching them, equipping them and launching them. I love that now. So it's just a different mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So when you and I met, I think we were both Dave Ramsey endorsed local providers. Mm-hmm. And I would probably venture to guess at this time we were probably the top 2 in however many there were. Mm-hmm. And so, and we had met a couple times. We'd done a couple deals. Met a few times at, I think it was like Platinum Top 50 events, mm-hmm. and really hit it off. And I think this was not intentional at first, but I'd go into a listing appointment. And it was like, okay, who else are you interviewing? I'm interviewing Kent Redding and, someone else. And I'm like, who's someone else? Well, Kent would do a fine job for you. I'm just weird. I don't know who the other person is, And then I remember going to one and the guy's like, he said the same thing about you.
Yep.
And depending on the demographic of the person, I think, it would, we'd always smoke the other person out.
Exactly. I'd never heard of that guy, but that Ryan guy's pretty sharp.
Yeah.
You can't lose with either one of us. Right. I would always say.
Yeah. And that really kind of changed my mentality of how I went across these listing mm-hmm. appointments, especially if I really believed it. Now, of course, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to be that complimentary to someone that I don't really believe that. Mm-hmm. I'm just, oh yeah, I know who he is. But with you, I knew it was like, oh, you're going to be just fine, no matter who you hire.
Yeah, I think people appreciate that.
They do.
They like the transparency.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so we had that camaraderie, and I think I even said that at an event one time, the Platinum Top 50, right? Yeah. Okay, so fast forward to 2018, mm-hmm. right? I think you were getting some encouragement from someone on the board to Ryan.
Exactly.
Was it me?
You and somebody else. Yeah.
Okay.
Encouraged to run, and I didn't like what board. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we're talking about the board of directors at Austin Board of Realtors. In case we haven't disclosed this yet, Kent is the acting president of the Austin Board of Realtors.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. So. You ended up running, mm-hmm. And that was, after I think, the year that in 2017, for if you're watching this and you're a realtor, don't remember, there had been a history of like cronyism at the time where not a lot, look, it's a hard job to fill, but let's put it like this. The way that the path to being on the board of directors was you went and you volunteered 4 years, okay? And then you get put into the board of directors, and it was basically almost like a nomination by the existing board of directors. And 6 of us petitioned the membership, and it was a big deal. It was on the papers. There was a lawsuit and just all kind of stuff. And we ended up almost like usurping the board of directors, for lack of a better word. And then, through that, there was interims. The CEO that was there at the time when we were going in resigned the day before we came into office, because obviously he would not have lasted another day. And then Emily Schenevert was interim CEO, and she was, we thought she was amazing. The board had planned on going on this huge, CEO search, and then also, there's 6 of us that were on, and then there were a good 3 or 4 of the existing board that were very like-minded in what we were trying to accomplish. And so we voted to cancel the CEO search and have Emily as the permanent, CEO for ABOR. Yeah. And like, what a job that woman has done.
That was a brilliant decision you guys made. She's amazing.
Well, it wasn't hard. And, I was in Chicago a couple of weeks ago and met a guy who's on the board of directors at in New Orleans, and he's like, this happens all the time, right? Like, they know
everywhere I go.
Yeah, they know who she is. She's like, she handles herself with dignity and grace. She's also very fun, as right?
Yeah.
And through our time at the board, like, when we were together, I was there for maybe 2.5 years, at least 1 year with you. There's not only are we doing stuff for the membership that we believe in, but we'd go to conferences together. We spend a lot of time together. You and I had a trip to Vegas at one point after that, right?
A lot of bonding,
yeah. Vegas, DC, everywhere. So it is very rewarding in a lot of ways. And so how did you become president?
Well, I ran that year after you got on board, because I just got encouraged to. And honestly, one of the things you said back then, I remember asking you about, because I didn't know much about the board. I'm not even sure I'd ever been in the ABOR building, I'm embarrassed to say.
Yeah.
I've not been on any committees. I didn't know anything about it. It was a place that you paid your dues, and you kind of grumbled about that at the time, right?
Yeah.
Until I became more knowledgeable. But you had said it was one of the most impactful, important things you had ever done.
Yeah.
And you said it totally surprised you. I remember that we was having that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I ran and got on, and it literally has been life-changing for me to understand how an organization runs and how it runs well, and to be respected. ABOR is globally respected.
I know.
Everywhere we go, everywhere we travel, they look up to, and that's not really a testimony to the board. That's staff.
For
Emily's
sure.
staff and who she's put around her.
I'd say it's mostly.
It's maybe 1% board and 99% staff.
Right.
And so, super proud of that. But also just learning the inner workings of how a large organization works has been very rewarding for me. And then realizing we really are impactful for the members. This is what we do. It's important.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know it was important until
I didn't either. Yeah.
And it is very important. And I see it. And also, I think changing some of the sentiment over the years of where, the board, I don't know, what did they do? There's a little bit of backlash. Now that we've gone through the settlement and we've gone through these changes, we're seeing the appreciation for what we do much, much higher. People involved. So we have standing room only at almost every event we have.
Yeah.
So that's been rewarding to watch the paradigm shift, I guess, in membership, of appreciation for the board and understanding how it really affects their career and how it is important to them. And I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And so you took office in January, right?
Took office in January. I don't remember that. 2018, I think.
No. As president.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Obviously, you did not know, as neither did anybody know, that all these changes with the NAR settlement, like when this all went down, you're like, shit, could this have happened next year?
I know. I thought this is going to be an easy year, piece of cake. Because we've had some tough years. And
sure.
Other presidents have had some battles, and we had COVID, right?
Yeah.
That was a big deal. So I was looking forward to a fun, simple year. But no, and I really do believe in my heart of hearts that the right guy at the right time. I mean, my year was the year of empathy, and it was the perfect time to coach agents, talk to them, give advice on the sky's not falling, guys. You know, we're resilient, we're tough, we're an incredible industry, especially in Austin. I think we have a little different culture than maybe some of the other cities. Yeah. And so my opportunity to use those gifts this year, I think has worked out really well.
Yeah. So what are we, 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks since Austin, where realtors implemented the changes. What's the general sentiment that you're, and I'll weigh in on mine too. Sure. But what is the general sentiment you're seeing from some of the members and everything?
Yeah, this is just my opinion, not really speaking for the board, but I've seen it as not as big a deal as we all thought it was. I mean, honestly, I feel like we thought it was going to be this, Battlestar Galactica crashing in, meteor into the side of the earth, and we were all going to perish in a big fire. And instead, it's kind of like a water gun in the pool. Yeah. I believe it's not quite as difficult as everybody thought. We adjusted. Our membership is very educated, and our staff is a part of getting that message out there. And we were way out in front back in May. Yeah. Getting that out. So I think that helped the landing, a little bit softer landing for us. Yeah. But, we've not seen it be too dramatic. And I kind of feel like I've used this example before. Like I was showing a ranch about 6 months ago, and I walked across this gigantic anthill. And what does every, eighth grade boy do when they see an anthill? I kicked it. Yeah. Right? I mean, this is what we do. You kick it. And these ants just went crazy, and they were running all over the place. And like 30 minutes later, I walked back, and the anthill was already back to order. And I felt like that's kind of what happened to us. Yeah. We're doing our little pass. We were doing this, we have our little, cubby holes, and everywhere we are in the anthill, somebody kicked the anthill. Right. But we just find new paths, and we found new ways to success. And I believe that's kind of what's happened to our industry. The sky's not falling, in other words.
It's not. I think it has the potential to fall. And the reason why I say that is if you read like the last Inman article from, Ketchmark and Brian Miller, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I did. What's interesting, they offer no guideline of like, because it's like, we're on our own here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're on our own. They offer no guideline about how we should do things, but they say they're going to be watching us. Okay. And then they also say, don't,
work around.
Yeah, don't work around. And look, and there's some things that they say that are absolutely right, but they're so accusatory in what they think we're going to do. And they also are warning against MLSs and companies talking about, putting forms together and stuff like that, right? Look, I mean, I know Anthony Macchia did a video, which I sent out yesterday, which I thought was really good. Is that like, there are agents that are on these committees that talk about, how these forms should be made. They're not making the form. Like when someone's on a committee for ABOR, they're getting input, right? But that doesn't mean there's agents writing the forms. Right. Those are going to attorneys. Okay. Yeah. And I just think it's a little bit of attack on the industry. Look, as it stands right now, I think it's fine. Okay. I think it really is fine. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. It's a very fluid time. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. It's very fluid. We're taking this day by day. One thing that I've said a couple of times that I would recommend agents, really, especially buyer's agents, is don't worry about how you're going to get paid. Okay. Like, don't worry about that until it's time to write up an offer. And what I mean by that, you're going to, get a buyer's representation agreement. You're going to agree on the price of what you're worth. Maybe maybe it's a discount price. Maybe it's full service. It depends on how you demonstrate your value. That's one thing I think we're going to see a lot more different lately. People are going to do discount, and they're going to do, more of a higher value in terms of you're paying more to get more, right? But what I see, agents do, I don't see them doing, but I see them asking about, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go and find out which each seller is paying. Don't do that. And if your buyer is saying, which I think this is a very rare case. I think it's a very rare case where a buyer's like, don't show me any properties that aren't paying anything. But agents might be willing to do that, and I would encourage them, look, go out there, have value for your client. Okay. I wouldn't even worry about what someone's paying. You get, you show 30 properties, your buyer picks 3 they want to might want to make offers on. Then you go into that thing, because that's when it's actually going to affect their ability to purchase property, right? Yeah. And I think if agents would adopt that mentality, and not get so, everything else is just, it's semantics of the deal, right? And you're getting ahead of yourself when you do that. So that's just my piece of advice for agents.
And I think that we're worried about this big bad wolf, and we're worried about those conversations, and I just don't think it exists. What's changed though is, 6 months ago, you could have told your agents best practice. Here's best practice for almost every turn of everything that happens.
Yep.
Now I'm telling my agents, I'm not exactly sure what best practice is going to be. Best practice is going to evolve, and it's going to change a little bit. And I don't know right now. Here's what I think it is. Probably a year from now, it will have shifted a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I do know is consumers value us. We bring value. 99% of our clients and our consumers, our customers, they value what we do. We bring value. I love that it's transparent. I think anything that's transparent to the consumer, we're going to win. And it gives us a chance to really shine if we continue that transparency. And don't worry about your bottom line. Worry about serving your client.
That's exactly right.
If you serve your client first, and then sometimes are you going to get a healthy commission? Yeah, sometimes. Or sometimes you're not. Yep. But it's been that way forever, for 20 years.
That's right.
I balance it out at the end of the year. Did I serve 100 people really, really super well?
Yeah.
And, can I put meat and potatoes on the table? Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Then I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I think the fallacy is, the worry that I might have, and I look, I don't worry too much, right? But, as a lot of these attorneys are like looking for sniffing the blood in the water, right? They want to, maybe, DOJ talks about decoupling the, making sure buyer pay. Look, if it goes to the point where a buyer pays their commission, it is a tax on the poor. Okay. It's another barrier to entry into buying a home. Right. And I think, that's just something that consumers and the powers that be that govern this, and people, the legislature really need to look at and say, okay, what is best? Let's look at it from a standpoint. What's best for the consumer? Mm-hmm. I think what's best for the consumer in most cases is financing part of that now of the commission. Mm-hmm. But
I think consumer forces, capitalism will figure that out. I think sellers are going to understand, what's going to be needed offered to buyers to entice them as a marketing incentive to buy their house, and it's going to be negotiated. Yep. Just like, to me, it's just like price. If you have a $250 house, you price it at $275. It's going to be tough. You give some incentive, you price it at $225. There's going to be a line out the door. That hasn't really changed.
Absolutely. When you look at selling your house, you have to decide what you're going to pay. There's several things you got to decide. You got to decide, okay, am I going to paint the kitchen? Am I going to replace some of the appliances? Am I going to clean the windows? Am I going to offer a buyer compensation? If so, how much? Mm-hmm. Right? Because you need to look at and those are all factors of how to sell a home. It's just one of those things, I don't see any different than that.
But it's an education thing. In the past, they've not had to think quite like that, and now it's more transparent, and they're thinking about it. And that's our job to coach them up, and still serve them well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they decide what they're doing.
100%.
Like you have to give them all the options, and they decide.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you have a few more months in your term.
I do. It's in October, and then I'll be past president for a year. December.
December. Okay. And what do you have past president for a year? What's next for you?
Well, I'm not going to run for the board again. I'm making that really clear. I like to see new faces get on the board. Yeah. And I like to see it's been really exciting for us to see the new blood come through every year. We get new opinions. We get new voices. So, me coming back and running again after being president, I think was, that's being a ball hog a little bit, in my opinion. Yeah. So I've made it really crystal clear. I'm not going to run again. I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss the camaraderie. I'm going to miss having a voice, a voice and a say. But hey, I can get that just by calling you up and having a beer and find out what's going on.
Yeah, right.
But I'm going to get back to traveling a little bit more on my own. I travel now for the board, but traveling with my family, and just makes it. It'll be 8 years And that 8 years is...
Wow, 8 years.
It'll be 8 years when I finish.
Yeah.
And I feel like I did it well. I showed up. I've never missed a board meeting since the day I walked in that room. So, I mean, when I'm in, I'm all in, 100%. Well, now I'm going to get to be all in on some other stuff. So
nice.
It'll be fun, yeah.
Well,
I do other volunteer things across the community. I'm big, active in community first, and that's one of my passions. So I'm hoping to ramp up some of my other passions when I have more space.
Yeah, well, I served for 2 years in 2017 to 2019. I am running for the board.
You are?
I am.
Oh, wow.
And this is, I want to take this time because this might come out during the, if we're lucky, come out in the middle of the election. Kent Redding is endorsing Ryan Rodenbeck for board. You're not?
No. I didn't know you were running until just then.
Oh.
Now,
This is awkward.
Have you been on the board before, Ryan?
This is really awkward. Okay, well, thank you for coming on to the Realty Hacks podcast, my friend, and we wish you good luck. And no, I'm just kidding.
No, I think you'd make a great boy. I mean, I want what the membership wants, right? And one thing that I will say that I think it's a little cumbersome because it is kind of a popularity contest. People are gonna vote for the names that they recognize, and there'll be some other very talented, good voices in there that just maybe don't have the name recognition. So I just encourage those that are voting, do some homework.
Yeah.
Do some homework, watch the videos, read up, learn about the candidates, and make your choice based on not because you recognize their name necessarily, but because you really believe they are the top five. Top five to get in. Yeah, and
the other thing, when we were kind of going through this against, in 2017, when it's like, oh, it could be a popularity contest. But okay, so here's what I would say about that, right? If anyone is popular in real estate, this isn't high school, okay?
Yeah.
They're not popular because we've got great hair or whatever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was low. Anyway, it's a lot of times it's because of their business acclimates, right?
Their leadership talents.
Their leadership talents,
100%.
right? And so what I would say is, just like you said, don't obviously, recognize the name. Let's go with that. But look into what they've accomplished in their business, and then how is that going to serve the membership?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And we need some balance. We don't need 5 brand new rookie agents, but we also don't need 5 past presidents either at the same time. There needs some kind of balance there, in my opinion. And so I'm just saying, just do your homework.
Yeah.
Don't just pick up the ballot, go, well, I recognize, Joe Smith, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to pick them. Do some homework, ask around, ask some friends, and, pick the one that you feel are the best.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Ryan Rodenbeck.
Let me tell you what, if I do not make it on the board, I will be fine.
Yes,
it's not going to be...
That's one thing I can say about you, Ryan. If you don't make it, you're going to be fine.
I am not going to be crushed, but I would like to serve the membership if I'm elected.
You'd be great.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right, Ken. Thanks a lot.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.